The stars above Vega 7 were calm that night, bright and silent, but on the surface, things were far from peaceful. The human outpost, Vega Station Delta, had gone quiet. No response to calls, no signals, just silence. When the rescue ship finally arrived, they found only ashes. The buildings were scorched ruins, no survivors, no distress call, nothing. Captain Ryan Cole stood on the blackened soil, looking at the charred remains. He had fought in the frontier wars a decade ago. He had seen battlefields, seen loss, but this felt different. This felt like betrayal. He picked up a burned child's toy from the rubble. He turned to the young officer beside him. "This wasn't an accident," he said quietly. "This was a message." The Threxian Empire responded quickly, too quickly. Their ambassador sent a recorded message to Earth. Regretful incident. A rogue commander, already punished. The message was smooth, cold, hollow. Earth's diplomats weren't convinced. The president met with military commanders. A choice had to be made. Admiral Laura Bennett stood before the council. "They knew the treaty," she said. "They signed it. They broke it. And now they try to lie. If we let this pass, more outposts will burn." Ryan Cole was called back to duty. He had retired after the war, built a home on a quiet moon, planted trees with his daughter, but Earth needed him again. And he could not say no. The call went out across the Terran defense network. Warships in deep space were recalled. Fleets were rearmed. Secret weapons, hidden since the last war, were brought out of the shadows. Earth didn't want war. But Earth would not be ignored. The Terran fleet sent one last message to the Threxians. "This was your final warning." The message traveled across the stars. The Threxians received it, and they laughed. In a council chamber, deep within Threxian space, General Varnak smashed a datapad on the table. "Humans are weak," he growled. "They rely on talks and treaties. They fear war." An elder among them spoke with caution. "They fought us once. They bled us. They hesitated then," Varnak said. "They'll hesitate now. We take their mining worlds, and they'll whine, but they won't act." He was wrong. Ryan Cole arrived aboard the USS Valiant Horizon, a massive dreadnought that had been mothballed. For years, it had new armor now, new weapons, new purpose. He met with Commander Alicia Grant, one of the youngest and most skilled tacticians in the fleet. She had studied every battle the Threxians had fought. She knew their weaknesses. "Expect us to move slow," she told Ryan. "We won't. We hit them fast, hard." Ryan nodded. No speeches, no warnings, just action. The Valiant Horizon joined up with two other warships. Together, they warped to the outer edge of Threxian space. There, a convoy of Threxian freighters was moving supplies and weapons. To their forward bases, the human fleet struck. Stealth systems activated. The human ships became shadows. Lasers sliced through space. Missiles found their targets. The Threxian convoy didn't even have time to call for help. In less than 7 minutes, the convoy was gone. Alicia sat in the control room, eyes cold, hands steady. "Strike confirmed," she said. "No survivors." Ryan looked at the screen. "They'll understand now. We're not begging anymore." Back on Earth, the public learned about Vega 7, the burned outpost. The dead families. People who had believed peace was permanent now demanded answers. They got none, but they did get war. The Threxians responded. They attacked a neutral world, Taller. Prime, a city of 10 million. Bombed from orbit, hospitals, schools, markets all gone. They said it was retaliation, said humans had started this. Said they warned Earth not to cross their borders. Ryan watched the news feeds. He saw the broken buildings, the crying children, and he felt the fire inside him grow. Earth's response was swift. A full military campaign was approved. The Terran president stood before the stars and said the words, "We gave a warning." They ignored it. Now we answer. New ships were launched from shipyards in Mars orbit. Older warships were upgraded. The humans weren't just going to defend anymore. They were going to hunt. Ryan Cole, once a farmer with calloused hands now, stood again as a war leader. He strapped into the command seat of the Valiant Horizon and looked at the map of space in front of him. "We go in fast," he told the fleet. "We take out their supplies, their fuel, their leadership. We leave. Then no time to think." Alicia added, "We show them what happens when you ignore Earth's warning." The engines roared. The ships vanished into hyperspace. And across the galaxy, the Threxians began to understand. The humans weren't here to negotiate anymore. They were here to make the stars burn. The stars over the Narran belt were thick with movement. Civilian traffic, trade routes, and hidden pirate outposts cluttered the region. But none of them knew what was coming. From the darkness emerged the USS Valiant Horizon, silent and cloaked. 3 Terran destroyers followed close behind. Captain Ryan Cole stood on the bridge, arms folded. His eyes were sharp but quiet. "Target convoy confirmed," said Commander Alicia Grant, her voice steady. 6 freighters, 2 escorts. All Threxian. Flagged, Ryan gave a single nod. "No warnings, make it clean." For decades, Earth had avoided using its most advanced tech. Some thought it was to keep peace. Others believed Earth feared what it could become. But now, everything had changed. And the gloves were off. The new stealth tech code named Phantom Net made the Terran ships undetectable to most sensors. They moved like ghosts, visible only when they struck. And when they struck, it was already too late. The lead Terran destroyer, the USS Ironwake, opened fire first. A silent beam of concentrated plasma sliced through the nearest Threxian freighter. The ship split in two before the crew even knew they were under attack. Panic spread through the convoy. Escorts turned and fired blindly. But their shots hit only empty space. The humans had already moved. Alicia gave her command. "Switch to full strike mode, no escapees." The Valiant Horizon came in from above, raining precision kinetic strikes. The second escort exploded in a bright flash, scattering debris like falling stars. 3 freighters down, an officer reported. "The last one's trying to run." Ryan turned to his helmsman. "Let it think it has a chance, then clip its wings." Moments later, the fleeing freighter's engines were shredded by a targeted EMP round. It drifted helplessly, lights flickering. The humans didn't board. They didn't send a message. They just turned and left. That convoy had carried food, medical supplies, weapons, and parts for Threxian forward bases. Without it, entire battalions would go hungry. Repairs would stop. Plans would stall. And this was only the beginning. Back in Threxian space, General Varnak stood before his command staff, furious. "They think they can strike and vanish? They think we'll just sit and watch?" His voice roared through the chamber. His second-in-command looked nervous. "We underestimated their stealth tech and their attack speed." "No, we underestimated their anger," growled Varnak. "Now we hit back. No more diplomacy. Target their allies, their trade partners. Make them bleed." The Threxians launched a raid on the peaceful planet of Lyran 4, an independent mining colony that sold resources to Earth. They struck hard. No military value, just a warning. Thousands of civilians died. The news reached Earth within hours. The footage showed burning cities, screaming children. No mercy. Ryan watched the feed in silence. His jaw clenched. Around him, the bridge crew said nothing. They didn't need to. They all felt the same fire. Alicia turned to him. "We're not waiting for orders, are we?" He shook his head. "No, it's time they learn. We're not here to play." The humans picked a new target, the Threxian fuel hub on Zarak 9, a key refueling point. Without it, half the Threxian fleet couldn't move. The attack was fast and brutal. Earth deployed a new weapon, The Fury drones. Small, fast, and smart, they flew into vents and control rooms, then exploded. The station was gone within minutes. Threxian forces scrambled to respond, but it was chaos. The humans never stayed in one place. They struck, disappeared, and reappeared somewhere else. Like ghosts with claws, across Earth's military channels. A phrase began to spread. No more warnings. Just results. In a bar on Titan's surface, two young pilots watched the footage of the drone attack. One leaned back and said, "They used to call us soft." The other smiled. "Let's see them say that now." Aboard the Valiant Horizon, Ryan stared at the stars. "We gave them a chance," he said quietly. "Now we take theirs." Alicia walked up beside him. "We won't stop, will we?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to, because now the war had changed. It wasn't about defense. It wasn't even about justice. Now. The humans were on the hunt. The Threxian War Council met in silence. Their supply lines were collapsing. Convoys vanished. Fuel depots exploded without warning. Food shipments never arrived. Soldiers on the front were starving. Bases had gone dark. And no one knew where. The humans would strike next. The Terran strategy had changed. They no longer held ground. They didn't defend borders. They moved like shadows, fast and quiet. Where the Threxians once believed humans were slow and reactive, they now faced issue. Predator they couldn't see coming. Captain Ryan Cole and Commander Alicia Grant sat inside the war room aboard the USS Valiant Horizon. Around them, holographic maps showed real-time Threxian fleet positions, blinking red where fuel levels dropped or supplies ran thin. Alicia pointed at a narrow system near the edge of Sector 12. "If we cut through here, we can hit 3. Convoys in one route. They won't expect it," Ryan nodded. "Move Ghostwing 7. Tell them, no survivors, no signals." Ghostwings were Earth's newest tool in this war. Small elite fleets of fast attack ships. Each wing carried stealth corvettes, drones, and a command vessel. They struck hard, then vanished. No messages, no traces. Just destruction. Ghost Wing 7 moved into the Kessar Run, one of the Threxians' oldest trade routes. They destroyed a communication relay in seconds. Then, they dropped mines across the asteroid fields to block escape paths. Within an hour, 2 more freighters and a repair cruiser were turned to space debris. Ryan watched the reports come in. "They're choking," he muttered. "Good. Let them feel the pressure." Threxian Admiral Devore stood before his own command table, his skin twitching with stress. "We have lost 14 ships in 6 days. Earth has become a swarm. We cannot track them." One of his generals slammed a fist against the wall. "We are the Empire. We cannot be hunted like animals." Devore's eyes narrowed. "And yet, we are. Because we ignored their warning. Now we run." Meanwhile, in deep space, Ghostwing 5 intercepted a Threxian command shuttle. It carried mid-level officers and encrypted data. Rather than boarding, they disabled the engines and launched micro-drones that latched onto the hull and hacked into the internal systems. Data flowed back to Earth. It revealed something critical. The Threxians were gathering forces near the planet. Dravik, their plan was to launch a surprise counterattack. Alicia studied the intel. "They're planning a trap," Ryan grinned. "Then we'll spring it first." The Terran fleet split into 2 groups. One moved directly toward Dravik as bait. The other circled behind through the Helios belt, a hazardous zone most avoided due to radiation storms and debris. But the Valiant Horizon went anyway. Inside the Helios belt, the ships twisted through glowing clouds of dust and swirling rock. Sensors glitched, navigation failed. But Earth's navigators had trained for this. Every pilot in Ghostwing 4 had flown simulations in worse. They emerged from the far side with their hulls scorched but ready. The Threxian fleet, focused on the decoy group, didn't see them coming. In one synchronized moment, the Terran fleet unleashed its fury. Railguns fired from behind. EMP missiles paralyzed Threxian cruisers. Drone swarms blacked out visual sensors. The battle lasted only 13 minutes. Dravik base burned. Hundreds of Threxian officers died before they even understood they'd been flanked out from orbit. Alicia looked down at the shattered base. "They thought they were hunters," she whispered. "But we are the storm now." Word spread fast. Across Threxian-controlled space, fear began to replace pride. Captains refused missions near human-claimed zones. Merchants rerouted entire trade paths. Even pirates abandoned Threxian contracts. In contrast, morale across Earth was rising. On Mars, students cheered in the academy halls as news of the Dravik strike came in. On Europa, miners raised toasts in ice tunnels. On Earth, crowds filled streets, holding banners with a single phrase: "They warned you, you didn't listen." In the shadows of Earth's war rooms, planners began drawing deeper lines. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about ending a threat before it rose again. Back aboard the Valiant Horizon, Ryan sat in his quarters, holding a photo of his daughter. The girl had been at Vega 7 before it burned. She survived only because her school shuttle had launched early that morning. He would never forgive the Empire for what happened. Alicia entered, holding a new report. "They're pulling back from 4 border systems. Looks like they're scared." Ryan didn't look up. "Good, let them be scared." She paused. "What happens next?" He finally turned to her. "Now we hunt deeper. We take their heart." And far across the galaxy, deep in the Threxian core, High Command began preparing desperate measures, because the humans were coming, and they weren't coming to talk. The gas giant Tindaros glowed red and gold in the void, its swirling storms lighting the shadows of its distant moons. Orbiting one of those moons was a heavily fortified Threxian shipyard, Nest 17. It was the pride of their empire's western arm. Protected by minefields, defense satellites, and 6 battlecruisers, it had been safe for decades. Until now. Ryan Cole stood in the command chamber of the Valiant Horizon, watching the hologram of Nest 17. His arms were crossed. His voice was calm. "This is where they build the war. If we burn it, they can't grow it." Commander Alicia Grant reviewed the latest scout drone footage. "We'll need the Emberlight. Nothing else carries enough firepower to crack that core." The Emberlight was Earth's only active siege-class cruiser. It had been kept hidden for years, stored beneath the frozen mountains of Callisto. Now it drifted through space, massive and quiet, a blunt hammer in a war of knives. The plan was brutal in its simplicity. Phase 1. Stealth units would disable outer defense grids. Phase 2. The Emberlight would drop into low orbit and fire its orbital plasma lances. Phase 3. Ghost Wings 3 and 9 would sweep through the wreckage and make sure nothing left alive. No survivors. No second chances. The fleet jumped in under the cover of a radiation storm. The Threxians never saw them coming. Drones hit the satellites first. Precision laser strikes blinded the perimeter. Then the Valiant Horizon launched high-speed torpedoes at the minefields, clearing paths for the siege ship. From deep space, the Emberlight emerged. Its engines burned blue. Its cannons began to charge. On the moon below, Threxian workers sounded alarms. Their commanders screamed into comms. But their signals were jammed. Ryan gave the order. "Fire!" The Emberlight's primary lance fired. A beam of molten plasma tore through the heart of Nest 17. The shipyard's superstructure buckled and collapsed. Ammunition bunkers inside the shipyard ignited, triggering a chain reaction. The explosion lit up the orbit like a second sun. From orbit, Alicia whispered, "It's gone." "Make sure it stays that way," Ryan said. Ghost Wings swept in like vultures. Strike teams landed, planted charges in hangars, destroyed the command cores. Escape pods were vaporized mid-flight. Threxian captains who begged for surrender were met with silence. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was punishment. News of Nest 17's destruction spread through Threxian space like a virus. Entire fleets stopped moving. Panic gripped sectors far from the fighting. Civil unrest began to crack the edges of their empire. And in response, the Threxian High Command placed a bounty on Ryan Cole's head. 50 million credits, dead or alive. It made him a target. It also made him a legend. Ryan barely reacted when he saw the broadcast. Just shrugged and muttered, "Cheap, considering what I'm about to do next." Alicia, however, smiled. "You've officially become the nightmare under their bed." The Emberlight returned to Callisto with battle scars and blackened plating. Engineers cheered when it docked, patting the hull like an old warhorse. Back on Earth, the President stood before the Global Assembly. Earth did not start this war, but we will finish it. From Vega 7 to Tendaros, we have made one thing clear. The humans warned them. They ignored us. Now they answer to us. On Threxia Prime, Supreme Leader Joran paced in his war chamber. "They destroy our future and leave. Only ashes," he hissed. His advisors said nothing. One tried to speak, but Joran snapped at him. "They have no honor," he snarled. "No rules." Another general finally said it. "They warned us." And we laughed. Joran slammed his fist into the table. "Now we bleed, but they will bleed too." He activated a secret terminal. "Prepare the Titan project." Deep in an undisclosed lab, Threxian scientists nodded. A machine stirred. A weapon never meant to be used, only threatened. Now it would be real. Far from the Empire's core. Ryan met with Alicia in the observation deck. "We've cut deep," she said. "But they're preparing something. We can feel it." Ryan nodded slowly. "Then we go deeper, find what they're hiding, and tear it out." The stars outside shifted as the fleet prepared to move again. And somewhere, in the cold vacuum of the dark sectors, the humans sharpened their knives. The Threxian interceptor spun out of control, one engine flaming as it pierced the lower orbit of the ice moon, Veros. Terran radars picked it up instantly. Normally, Earth's defense fleet would have vaporized it before it hit the atmosphere. But this time, it was different. The pilot had sent a signal. Not a threat, not a warning. A request: "I wish to defect." Ryan Cole sat in the Valiant Horizon's hangar bay, watching the small, damaged fighter being dragged in. Marines surrounded it with weapons ready. Nobody trusted a Threxian willingly crossing sides. Not after what had happened at Vega 7. Not after the blood. The cockpit hissed open. A tall, thin Threxian stepped out. His skin was pale green, his armor half burned. He raised his hands slowly, carefully. "No weapons. I am Kelzer, former commander, Threxian Sky Division." Ryan didn't flinch. "Why are you here?" Kelzer's voice was deep but tired. "I have nothing left to fight for. My family died when your drones attacked a munitions plant." "But they weren't supposed to be there. They were visiting. The Empire didn't care, said it was a sacrifice worth making." Alicia Grant crossed her arms. "And now you expect us to believe you just changed sides?" "I expect nothing, but I have information." Ryan tilted his head. "What kind?" Kelzer stepped forward. "They're building something. A weapon, far worse than anything you've seen." Silence filled the bay. Ryan signaled the guards to lower their weapons. "Keep talking." Kelzer was taken to the secure debriefing chamber. For hours he gave details, locations, project names, the structure of hidden labs near the Drax Rift. Earth's analysts confirmed some of his claims, using older spy data. The name of the project chilled everyone who heard it. Project Titan. "It's a mobile stellar disruptor," Kelzer explained. "It can trigger a small-scale supernova in a local system, meant to wipe out entire fleets or planets if necessary. They never finished it, until now." Ryan leaned back, staring at the display. "Why tell us this?" Kelzer looked him in the eye. Because if they use it, they'll kill everyone, yours and mine. The Empire doesn't believe in survival anymore. Only pride, Ryan stood. Then we stop it, together. The mission that followed would push the limits of what Earth's fleet had done so far. The Drax Rift was a black zone, a region so unstable that even light bent wrong. Deep radiation. Twisted gravity. Navigation systems failed. Only the most skilled pilots could survive, but the Titan weapon was there. Waiting, almost ready. The Terran fleet couldn't go in large. A full assault would trigger the Empire's defense grid. Instead, Ryan chose a strike team. 3 corvettes, 1 stealth carrier, and Kelser as guide. Alicia argued. It's a trap. He could be leading us to die. Ryan met her eyes. And if he's not, we can't risk waiting. They entered the Drax Rift under radio silence. Systems blinked and dimmed. The stars vanished from view. The rift was silent and deadly. 1 corvette disappeared an hour in. No explosion. No signal. Just gone. Kelser piloted them through narrow lanes of magnetic tunnels, his memory guiding them where computers failed. We're close, he said. I can feel it. They reached a moon made of black glass, orbiting a dying star. Beneath its surface was the lab. Massive heat signatures pulsed below the crust. Ryan gave the order. Infiltrate. Plant charges. Destroy it from the inside. Strike teams deployed in silence. Alicia led the charge. She and Kelser moved through a service vent, avoiding motion sensors. Inside, the lab was worse than imagined. Giant reactors hummed. Cylindrical chambers held core explosives. Threxian engineers worked around the clock, unaware of the silent death approaching. Kelser paused, staring at a console. There's more than 1, he whispered. They're making 2. Alicia cursed. Then we destroy both. How much time do we have? Kelser didn't blink. Not enough. They planted the charges, set the timers, and raced for extraction. As alarms finally sounded, Earth's corvettes fired covering blasts to distract defenders. They reached the carrier seconds before the countdown reached 0. From orbit, Ryan watched the moon split in half. A wave of energy pulsed outward. Titan was gone. Later in the Valiant Horizons observation deck, Ryan looked out at the quiet stars. We were close, he said. Too close. Alicia stood beside him. 1 more day, and they'd have used it. Kelser entered quietly. There are more secrets, but fewer people willing to keep them now. Your message spreads. Captain, they are beginning to fear you. Ryan didn't smile. Good, let fear do the work. Because now, with Titan gone, the war had changed again. And Earth wasn't slowing down. The war had pushed many front lines, but none as deep as this. The Arvaxi sector was the Empire's core defense ring. Inside were major shipyards, war factories, command stations, everything the Threxians needed to keep fighting. It was a place humans were never meant to reach, but Ryan Cole was never one to follow expectations. The Valiant Horizon and 3 Ghost Wings sat at the edge of a pulsar field, waiting for final launch clearance. Alicia Grant stared at the map. Arvaxis was crawling with enemy signatures. Dozens of cruisers, patrols, orbital cannons, minefields. No way in, no way out. Unless you made your own way. Kelser stood beside the navigation crew, analyzing the drift patterns of old mining tunnels beneath the moon Sarin 6. These tunnels bypass their main sensors, he said. It's old tech. They think no one remembers, Ryan nodded. Then let's show them we remember everything. The plan was insane. Sneak through the ancient tunnels, surface under the primary command nexus, and blow it from the inside. It was suicide. And that's exactly why it might work. The strike team boarded their drop shuttles. Ryan insisted on going. Alicia tried to argue. You're fleet command now, she said. You don't need to lead every fire team. I do, he replied. Because if we fail, I want the last thing they see to be a human face." They launched in silence, drifting into the tunnels with barely enough clearance. Every turn scraped metal. Every second felt like death waiting to pounce. Inside the tunnels, the walls were lined with frost and rust. The path had collapsed in parts. Once, their lead shuttle struck a gas pocket and nearly exploded. But they pressed on finally. They emerged in the shadow of the Arvax's command spire. The base was built into a mountainside, armored with tungsten plating and guarded by 2 capital-class cannons. The humans moved fast. Infiltration teams split into sectors. One moved for the reactor. Another headed to the communications hub. Ryan and Kelser led the team targeting the command bridge. Inside the spire, chaos erupted. Threxian alarms wailed. Red lights flashed. Guards scrambled, unprepared for an attack from below. Earth's forces hit like lightning. Silenced rifles. EMP grenades. Drones crawling through vents. Alicia, watching from orbit, guided the reinforcements. Push sector 2 forward. Spire corridor has backup incoming. Deploy the Night Stalkers. Back in the command core, Ryan breached the main chamber. Threxian generals screamed. One raised a blaster. Ryan shot him in the chest before he could finish his sentence. Kelser moved to the central console and jammed the spike into the port. Downloading fleet routes, weapon locations, supply paths. "Give me 1 minute." Ryan turned, holding the door. "You've got 30 seconds. Outside, human forces fought through narrow halls. Explosions rocked the base. Fire lit the ceilings. A wounded Terran, Noreen crawled to a control panel and blew the floor beneath an advancing squad of Threxians. 30 seconds passed. Kelser yanked the drive. "Got it." They sprinted back through smoke and gunfire. Behind them, Earth's saboteurs triggered the reactor overload. From orbit, Alicia watched the Arvax's command spire crack in half. A blinding light erupted from the mountain. Fire poured out like a sunburst. Then came silence. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but not everything had gone to plan. Ryan's shuttle never made it back. Alicia's heart sank when she saw the signal loss. She tried to hail him. Nothing. The Valiant Horizon scanned the debris, but no trace. Just static. Meanwhile, on the rocky surface of Sarin 6, Ryan lay half buried under rubble. His helmet was cracked, his arm broken. Kelser pulled him out, panting, bleeding from a gash above his eye. "You alive?" Kelser asked. Ryan coughed. "Barely." They had landed hard, far from the extraction zone. No coms, no flares. Just them and the icy wind. "We can't call for help," Kelser said. "They think we're dead." Ryan laughed bitterly. "Then we'd better prove them wrong." They marched across the icy plains, avoiding Threxian patrols. Once, they hid in a crater as a gunship passed overhead. Ryan was slowing, but he didn't stop. He had too much left to do. Back aboard the fleet, Alicia took command. With no time to grieve, she led the withdrawal and began analyzing Kelser's stolen data. It was more than they hoped for. Fleet reserves, secret command bases, even Threxian. Internal disputes. "We hit them here, here, and here," Alicia said, pointing to 3 sectors. "We cut their neck before they can breathe again." The war wasn't over, but it was turning. And deep below the stars, a broken captain and a defector marched through hell, trying to return to the fire they'd helped start. The image of the burning Arvax's spire echoed across the galaxy. The once untouchable Threxian command center had fallen. Entire sectors fell into disarray. Officers went silent. Command codes changed hands. And fear, real fear, began to take root in the Empire's heart. From her new war table aboard the Valiant Horizon, Alicia Grant stared at a series of intercepted broadcasts. Panic rippled across Threxian space. Civil uprisings. Battles between their own admirals. Some accused each other of betrayal. Others begged for help. But none trusted their leadership anymore. Alicia sent one final message. To the Threxian High Command, lay down your weapons, surrender, or what remains of your empire will be dust by cycle's end. The message was translated into every dialect and broadcast on every open frequency. And the empire left. Supreme Leader Joran appeared days later in a live transmission. His eyes gleamed with rage. His armor was ceremonial, bright gold, stained with red. His voice thundered through the feed. Your victories are shadows. Your courage is weakness in disguise. You burn one tower and think you are gods. Let me remind you, it is the Empire that built these stars. He slammed a clawed fist on the table. You want war? Then die in it. He cut the feed. Alicia watched in silence. Then so be it. She whispered. All across Earth's military sectors, the order was given. Operation Eclipse, the final strike plan. Earth's full fleet would activate, including its AI-controlled squadrons. No more skirmishes, no more hunting. This was extinction-level response. Over 200 ships moved into position. Some came from Mars shipyards, others from secret hangars beneath Saturn's rings. The Emberlight was patched, refueled, and loaded again. Orbital missile platforms adjusted their angles toward core Threxian systems. They would strike 3 command worlds simultaneously. Meanwhile, far from the action, Ryan Cole and Kil Zur limped across the frozen plains of Sarin 6. Their breath formed clouds in the frigid air. Every step was pain. But they moved. A communications relay blinked in the distance. Broken. Buried. Forgotten. Ryan fell to his knees. That's our shot. Kelser dragged him forward. Together, they rigged a power core from Ryan's shattered rifle. The relay sparked to life. Ryan keyed in a short burst. Cole alive. Need extraction. Give him hell. Then he collapsed. Back aboard the Valiant Horizon, Alicia stared in disbelief as the signal came through. He's alive, she breathed. He's really alive. Rescue ships launched immediately. But there was no time to wait. The final assault began. The Terran fleet emerged in the heart of Threxian space like a tidal wave. Every ship was armed. Every fighter launched. Drones swept ahead, mapping weak points. Azeza quadrants, faster than thought, tore through defenses. On the surface of Joran's palace world, anti-orbital cannons fired blindly into the sky. But the humans had already adapted. Stealth frigates slipped through defenses, delivering fire. Teams directly into enemy bunkers. On Sector 19, Earth's ships used solar mirrors to reflect concentrated beams onto enemy factories. Explosions lit up the skies for hours. The Emberlight dropped above Threxian Capital 04 and fired all 6 of its plasma lances in perfect sync. The city vanished under a wave of white-blue fire. Threxian soldiers fled. Others surrendered. Many threw down their arms and vanished into civilian zones, hoping to escape the storm. On the Valiant Horizon, Alicia stood tall. "Push to the throne," she said. "Burn their banners." They had their warning. Meanwhile, Ryan opened his eyes. Inside a medical bay. Bandaged, exhausted, but alive. Kelser sat nearby, resting but alert. "You made it," Alicia said, stepping in. Her eyes softened for just a moment. Ryan smiled weakly. "Told you I wasn't done." He looked at the tactical feed. Saw what Earth had unleashed. "You didn't." "Wait for me," Alicia shrugged. "Didn't have time. They mocked us again." Ryan's voice dropped. "And now they learn. You don't mock a final warning." On Threxia Prime, Joran tried to evacuate, but escape routes were cut. Human forces breached his palace. His guards were overwhelmed. As he made for a private launch pad, a single Terran Marine stood in his path. "Where do you think you're going?" she said, raising her weapon. Joran roared and charged. He didn't make it 2 steps. A single shot ended his reign. Back on Earth, silence settled. Cities watched live feeds. Families held hands. Soldiers wept quietly. Then the message came. Threxian. Empire neutralized. Hostilities ended. Earth stands. But Alicia didn't celebrate. Not yet. She looked at the stars, voice low. They ignored every chance. And we gave them one last warning. Her gaze hardened. They won't ignore the next one. The war was over, but the stars didn't celebrate. Across the galaxy, smoke still rose from shattered cities. Debris fields drifted like silent ghosts. Between planets, the Threxian Empire, once proud, vast, and cruel, was now a broken memory. What remained were whispers, scars, and the echo of a warning ignored. On Earth, the global assembly met in silence. No applause, no parades. Only quiet. Nods as the official declaration was read. Hostilities concluded. Earth victorious. Empire dissolved. Ryan Cole stood once more on his home moon, leaning against a tall pine tree he'd planted long ago. The war had left its marks on his body, in his mind. He still woke at night, hearing the distant echoes of orbital fire, but there was peace now. Kelzer sat nearby, eyes closed, face toward the wind. Once an enemy, now a symbol. He had given up his rank, his world, his blood for a chance to stop madness. Earth had granted him asylum. Many still didn't trust him, but he didn't care. He didn't come for comfort. He came for redemption. Children played nearby, chasing each other through fields. One stopped, pointing at Kelzer. "Is that the alien from the stories?" Ryan smiled. "He's not a story. He's the reason. We stopped the worst from happening." Alicia Grant arrived in a quiet transport. She wore no uniform now, just a dark jacket and simple boots. She walked beside Ryan without speaking for a while. "They're rebuilding out there," she finally said. "Even some of the Threxian colonies are trying to start over." "They'll need help," Ryan replied, "even after everything." "You think they deserve it?" He looked at the sky. "Not all of them wanted war, just like not all of us wanted revenge." She didn't answer, but her eyes softened. Back at Earth HQ, the files on Operation Eclipse were sealed. The weapon blueprints were destroyed. The Ghost Wings were disbanded. Earth had made a promise. Never again, unless pushed. But no one forgot. Statues were built, not of heroes, but of warnings. One monument showed a human hand offering peace, with fire burning in the background. On its base were the words, "We gave them every chance." In distant space, a small Threxian settlement lit candles for the dead, both theirs and Earth's. Kelzer's name was spoken among them with respect. Some even taught his story to their children. Across trade lanes, human ships once feared were now welcomed. There was mistrust, yes, but there was also memory. A memory of what humans had done when pushed too far. A memory of what happens when mercy is mistaken for weakness. Ryan walked through his home late one evening, past old battle medals and images of his daughter. She was older now, a young woman with her own path. She had grown up watching her father become a symbol, not of war, but of resolve. He sat beside her by the fire. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. He paused. "Sometimes. I regret what it cost, but not what we stood for. They say the galaxy fears us now. They should, but not because we're cruel. Because we warned them, again and again. And when they didn't listen," she nodded, "we made them listen." He looked at her with a tired smile. "But fear is not the legacy I want. Strength, yes. Honor, yes. But I want them to remember our patience too. How long we waited. How hard we tried." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "They will never forget, Dad." And across the galaxy, they didn't dot in war academies on distant worlds. Cadets studied Earth's campaign not just for its tactics, but for its restraint. How humans gave warning after warning before unleashing the storm. In council chambers, leaders argued. then paused because they remembered the cost of ignoring a human's final warning. On the moons of Vega 7, a rebuilt settlement was renamed Haven Cole. A statue stood in its center, a Terran soldier holding a burned child's toy. It bore no weapon, only the inscription, "We hunted not for blood, but because we were left no choice." The stars, once witnesses to chaos, now watched in silence. And as trade resumed, and cultures rebuilt, and alliances grew from the ashes, one truth echoed in every tongue. When Earth gives a warning, listen, because if you don't, they will hunt you, and they will never forget.